Today we're beginning our fourth module. The fourth module in disaster management starts with stakeholder participation. Stakeholders are the people who have any kind of interest in the disaster management or disaster risk reduction. And this has come because it has directly or indirectly affected that person. Okay, and can be positively affected, can be negatively affected. So stakeholders are anyone who has any kind of interest in the project. Here we mean disaster risk reduction, and it has affected them by the outcomes of this particular event. Now, next one is stakeholder participation. Stakeholder participation is a process through which people with common interest or stakeholder influence and share the control over the development initiative, decision, and resource that affect them. Okay. For example, an area is affected continuously with flood. So what will be the common interest of the people living over there? The common interest of the people will be to reduce the adverse effect of the flood. Stakeholder participation, stakeholder engagement, stakeholder involvement are often interchangeably used in relation to interaction between two or more stakeholders in policy making, development project, organizational management, and decision making in disaster risk reduction education. Suppose a flood has occurred at a particular area. Now the people affected at that particular area interact with each other to make some common policies and common decisions. And this is called as stakeholder participation or stakeholder engagement or stakeholder involvement. Now, what is this participatory development? So participatory development is defined as a process in which the people are proactively or significantly involved in all decision-making process that affect their life. The next slide is form of stakeholder participation. We can classify the stakeholders into three groups, that is primary stakeholder, secondary stakeholder, key stakeholders. Okay. Now, first one is the primary stakeholders. So primary stakeholders, they are beneficiaries of the development interventions or those directly affected positively or negatively by it. For example, a flood is happening at a particular place. Okay, we have decided to build a dam to reduce the flood over that place. Okay, then the local people who are affected by the flood is called as the primary stakeholders. They include local population in a project or program area in a particular, as well as a poor marginalized group who have traditionally been excluded from the participating in the development effort. So primary stakeholders are the people who are directly affected by the situation. So in disaster risk reduction, these stakeholders includes home owners, the renters, homeless people, that is the people who have lost their houses and all, and the community-based small-scale business holders. Now, secondary stakeholders. These refer to those who influence our development interventions or indirectly affected by it. For example, the government. Government people, they are not directly affected, they are indirectly affected because they are providing funds and all, so the government will be affected. If we build a dam over there, the government doesn't have to provide any relief fund, any recovery mechanism and all. So they don't have to spend more money on that. So these people are called as secondary stakeholders. And they include the government, line ministry, project staff, implementing agencies, local government, civil society-based organization, private sectors, and other development agencies. And these can be national or international organizations. So can be police service, national fire service, national disaster management organization, Ghana Education Service, Ministry of Local and Rural Development, non-governmental organization like NGOs, etc. all are part of this group. Next one is key stakeholders. Key stakeholders are the people who provide financial support or will have more power on your risk reduction plan. Or these are the people who provide financial resources to the project. Okay, so they have a significant influence on the disaster risk reduction. So in context of DRR, in the local, regional and national scale, key stakeholder could be the National Disaster Management Organization, the Ministry of Local and Rural Development, metropolitans, municipal and district assemblies, and they could be even the financiers of DRR effort. And the key element in the stakeholder participation is the ability to identify the stakeholder, their needs, their interest, and relative power and potential impact on the intended endeavor in the people-centered fashion. So these are the categorization. Next, we are going to see what are the effective way of promoting stakeholder participation in DRR, that is disaster risk reduction. So one thing is that everybody, that is primary stakeholder, secondary stakeholder, key stakeholder, everybody should participate in providing an effective disaster risk reduction. You should not remove the people who are affected over there. Okay, you should not remove the people like poor, women, and like that. Okay, so stakeholder participation initiates some groups such as very poor, women, nomadic groups, ethnic minorities, and many lack the organizational, social, and financial means to make their voice heard and participate effectively. The effective way of participation is that you should make use of all type of stakeholders. Some people will be using key stakeholders as well as secondary stakeholders. If we won't involve the primary stakeholders, means that you'll be lagging some points in that, because they are the people who are directly affected by this. So they will be knowing what all things must be done to reduce this risk. Okay, so you must make everybody to participate. So the way of promoting stakeholder participation in DRR, first one is capacity building. So what happens is that you should provide, see, I already told you about the minority people or the local category who are living there. So this local category people should be provided training, should be provided coaching, and you should provide fund to assist them to organize, as well as you should provide a mobilized support to them, and you must identify and articulate their interest. So that means that you must build the capacity to show the interest of these local people who are living over there. So what are the capacity? What are the interest? Everything should be covered. Next is mandated representation, where there's a danger of exclusion. Means in some condition, some people will be ignored. So if we ignore such people, what will happen is that you will ignore many points in disaster risk reduction. So it is necessary or it is mandatory to participate all the people who are affected also. Okay, without that, you should never plan or never implement the disaster risk reduction. For example, we know that in the Gram Sabha and all, we will make sure that around this many percent of women should participate in the meeting. So that is mandatory. So mandatory representation should be there to know what all disaster reduction plan can be carried out. Next, a separate event. So in some cases, it may be valuable to meet with a specific population group separately. For example, to hold a separate women meeting to discuss their particular concern. So a separate event must be conducted for a specific group of people to know their problem. Next is leveling technique. So leveling technique is a method by which the power differential between the stakeholder can be reduced to the use of participatory method. That is, each and every stakeholders should equally participate. Nobody should be removed out of it. If you remove anyone from that, that means that your reduction plan will be a big failure. Next thing is use of intermediary. Intermediary means the people who sit as intermediators. For example, it is not possible that all the women farmers from an isolated area to participate in National Forum of Agriculture Development. Then you can have a female extension worker that might be selected according to their interest and will be representing the views and interest of the women farmers of that particular area. And it was adopted by World Bank in 2000. Thank you, students. Thank you for watching my video. The rest part of the stakeholder participation will be dealt in the next video. Thank you.